As all of you in this room know, 1 week ago we started a period of intensive practice. Now we've come to, might say, completing the first week, which has been one of the longest weeks of my life. And those of you who are observing this situation online, I want you to know that too, that we have started an intensive a week ago, and that during that week we have been challenged with infections of the COVID virus. And so all the people in this room, except me right now, are wearing masks because quite a few people in this great assembly have contracted the virus and are feeling more or less sick. Several others who were not sick felt that for their own safety, they were going to leave and did leave. They felt the situation was too infectious. So for their own health and safety protocols, they decided to depart. So this group is smaller than it was a year ago, a week ago. However, it's still a wonderfully lovely assembly. People who sincerely want to practice the Buddha way. Sometimes in our little Zen family, we call the Buddha way Zazen. The practice of the Buddha way we call Zazen. And we also sometimes call it just sitting. Our founder, Suzuki Roshi, said a number of times, we say our practice is just to sit, but that may be rather difficult to understand. It's a simple thing to say, just sitting, but to understand it may be rather difficult. To help us understand more and more fully what our practice of the Buddha way of just sitting is, we sometimes consult the teachings of the ancestors of our family. We also sometimes consult the great vehicle Mahayana Sutras. And part of the intention, this intensive, was to look at the great Buddha flower adornment scripture, which unfolds, which depicts, which sings of just sitting. And as people look at this sutra, they have some difficulty because it's not so necessarily easy to understand what Zazen is. Not having an easy time understanding the sutra is basically having difficulty understanding what Zazen is. And we have been trying to look at these teachings about what our practice is. I remember Suzuki Roshi saying to me, me in person, particularly saying it to me, that the job of a Zen priest is to encourage Zazen. He said this to me shortly after I was ordained by him as a priest. And A Zen priest, that's their job, he said. And he didn't say the job of a Zen priest was to teach Zazen. But one of the ways to teach Zazen is to practice it in such a way that other people are encouraged to practice it. And practicing it together with other people, although the priest may not be doing the teaching is happening by encouraging others and being encouraged by others to explore the vast reality of just sitting. In this exploration together, in the intimate communion of encouraging and being encouraged to sit together wholeheartedly, the Dharma is alive. In this intimate transmission, mutually, between priests and priests, between priests and lay people, between lay people and lay people, in this intimate, wholehearted, just sitting, the reality of Zazen is manifested. Now, what is it? I said that the founder of our temple said that the job of priest is to encourage Zazen. But now, today, I would say that lay people can also, it may not be your job, you may not think of it as your job, but you, all lay people, can also are invited to join in the practice of encouraging the practice of the Buddha way, the practice of just sitting. And part of the reason why I think I thought of that point, that lay people can also do that job. Priests, it's their job. Lay people, you could take it on as your job. You could adopt it as your job. And I have mentioned that a while ago, there was an article in Life magazine, and it was, the date of this magazine here is March 7th, 1955. Here's the cover. Can you see it a little bit? I think it's a Buddha, right? A picture of a Buddha. And in this magazine, there's also articles on the Cold War, on the arms race between Russia and the US. And in this book, in this magazine, it says World's Great Religions, Part 2, Buddhism. And they have various articles on different aspects of Buddhism. But the one that caught my eye was the one that, was my karmic affinity, was the pictures of the Zen school. And in particular of a lay person, of a lay Zen Buddhist. And in particular, this picture. Can you see it? It's a person in the Zazen posture. It's a person who's sitting, I don't know, I can't say for sure, but I think he was sitting to encourage Zazen. And his sitting encouraged me to sit. I thought, that's a beautiful way to live, is to sit that way, to encourage people to sit that way and realize the Buddha Dharma of the Zen school. which is the teaching of Suchness, which is the intimate communion between all beings. In this intimate communion, there is not the slightest difference between you and everybody else and all Buddhas. In this teaching, in this meditation, in this concentrated awareness of this intimate transmission, there's not the slightest bit of difference between you, the Buddhas, and all beings. And this intimacy is what realizes the Dharma, and it is Buddha, and it is the teaching, and it is peace and freedom. How many people are tuned in to this event? 176. Did you 176 people hear what I said? Did you what? How many are in this room? 60? Did you 60 people hear this? In this just sitting, my human effort, my human action is included. However, this realm of practice, this just sitting, is far beyond my human agency. But my human agency is completely included, and it pervades my human agency, but also it includes yours and pervades yours. So altogether, we are in this awareness in reality. In this awareness, we are performing the activity of Buddha. We are maintaining the essential working of Buddha by offering our body and mind to this meditation and allowing our body and mind to receive this meditation of the Buddhas. In this practice of just sitting, we participate, we join, and we are joined in turning the great, unsurpassable Dharma wheel. We are maintaining the Buddha Dharma. We are receiving the light of Buddha's wisdom and sharing it with all beings. We are in a realm that is quiet, beyond any nature, and cannot be grasped. It cannot be grasped. However, we can enter it, but not by our own power. We enter it by offering ourselves to it, and it receives us, and we inherit the power of this samadhi, of this meditation, and we enter it. And therein, we meet all Buddhas face to face. And to meet the Buddhas face to face means that we meet every single form face to face and simultaneously meet every not form. Simultaneously, we meet forms, every form, and we also meet its lack of form. Meeting both simultaneously, we meet Buddha. We don't have to work at this. We don't have to try to avoid it or get it. We just offer ourselves to this practice. And our offer is received and responded to by supporting us to enter the practice. This practice is not something done by one person. It is done by all beings together with all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. That's the practice. And that is rather difficult to understand because usually when we say understand, we mean that this person understands. But this is not understood by a person. It's understood by the meeting of a person with a person. The meeting of a person who is completely devoted to being a person and not a person with another person who is the same. In that meeting, we are entering and living in this samadhi. In ordinary past January intensives, people have had a hard time even when they're not sick. So in this intensive, not only is the teaching of our practice difficult, but just living through a day is difficult for many of us, even when we're not sick. So now, in addition to getting through this rather strenuous program, getting up between 4 and 4:30 in the morning and practicing throughout the day till the night together is strenuous. And some people are telling me, which I've heard before, for more than 35 years I've heard this, I'm so tired. This is so hard. Yeah, it is. Sometimes, not always, but it's often difficult. And if we made it easier, that would become difficult. So we're having a hard time, and there may be more hard times ahead. But so far in this first week, all of you have made a great effort. You have been patient. You have been kind to yourself and to others. You have been gentle with yourself and others. You have been respectful. You have been courageous. We do not know what the future holds, but if this intensive continues, I will try to be with you and encourage you to practice this samadhi of the bodhisattvas. I will offer myself to it and to you. I will be available somehow to talk to you. We may have to be outside to do so, but I will talk to you, if you wish, about what this practice is. And if you have a hard time understanding or practicing it, I will vow to wholeheartedly support you through the difficulty. And you might consider supporting me, which you have been doing. So what I mean is, you please consider continuing. When I first came to Zen Center, I came to Zen Center to get help practicing Zazen. Before I came, I tried to practice sitting, and I found it difficult. I came to receive support, and I did receive support. I did not come to help others sit. I'm sorry. Little by little, I got the information that my practice was supporting and encouraging people. And I thought, oh, okay. And that was helpful to me to know that not only were they helping me, but when I went to sit in the Zendo with everybody, it helped them do this sometimes difficult thing. So again, I will continue this with you to the joyful end. If you uh, are here, if you all leave, I won't. uh, so I'm wondering if anybody would like to bring anything up in this assembly at this time about the practice, about the teaching, about the teaching, about the practice.
Today you talked about suchness. Was there? Today you talked about suchness. And the last class we had, you talked about thus and this.
Thus and this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Practice and thus and this.
And to me, it sounded like the Heart Sutra.
I couldn't follow that.
It's to me, it sounded almost like in the Heart Sutra, the relationship of emptiness and form.
You could see it that way, that this and thus is like form and emptiness. You could do that.
And their relationship.
And their relationship, yes. Mm-hmm. And so that's a reality, that form and emptiness are intimately related. And that's a reality which is taught. And the practice is to realize that reality. To practice forms integrated with their insubstantiality. And understanding their insubstantiality encourages us to be wholehearted about the form and not attached to it. And that's the practice, is to wholeheartedly engage with form and emptiness without getting stuck in either one. And we call that, for example, just sitting. Just sitting is wholeheartedly the form of sitting, intimately emptied of any substantiality.
May I ask a follow-up question about the Heart Sutra? There's the first it says form is
I'm having
emptiness.
one of your words I'm having trouble understanding. May I have a follow-up question about
The Heart Sutra.
or Heart Sutra? Yeah, Heart Sutra, right.
So first it says form is emptiness, emptiness is form. But then later on it says, therefore, emptiness is without form.
Emptiness is what?
Without form.
I don't understand what you're saying. Emptiness without form? Pardon?
Later on in the Heart Sutra, it says, emptiness is without form.
No, it doesn't say that. I don't think it says emptiness is without form. I think it says in the context of emptiness, there's no form.
There's no form.
There's no feelings. There's no formations. There's no, in that context, you cannot, in the context of emptiness, you cannot find any forms, feelings, impulses. You can't find anything in that context.
So that sounds like there is no relationship anymore then.
No, that is the relationship. The relationship is emptiness is the way that things cannot be grasped. It is their nature. It's very intimate. Emptiness is like super intimate with things. It's like how they're so whatever that you can't even get a hold of them. That's what they are.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can't get that. Yes, Russell.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, maybe this was implied, but I want to make sure that you're getting our support to where you're not pushing too hard, to where if you feel the need to take a step back, you're supported in that, because a big draw.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And so, yeah, I've been working on that for a while, this thing about not trying too hard. And also not trying too easy. So I've been working with that balance for a while. And I appreciate you supporting. I appreciate you supporting me to continue that exploration for, you could call it, the middle way. So if I think that taking a step to the right would be in accord with the middle way, you support me, right? You support my exploration of the middle way of effort. And by the way, I support your exploration of finding the middle way between addiction to sense pleasure and addiction to self-mortification, addiction to too easy and too fun and too hard and no fun. It's not those, sometimes it's appropriate to have a lot of fun. Sometimes it's appropriate to have no fun. It's the addiction that we're trying to be freed from. And so I support you and you support me to find that middle way free of addiction.
Yeah, I figured you had that covered. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
So when you say I am the same as everyone here and all.
I didn't say that. I didn't say I'm the same as everyone. I said I'm not the slightest bit different.
Okay, that I'm not.
By the way, I'm also not the same.
Okay.
But the problem doesn't seem to be so much that people think they're all the same.
Right.
A lot of people don't think they're the same as like those people. Though I'm not like those people. I'm not like those people. Those people aren't like me. You're not the slightest bit different from them. And they are not the slightest bit different from you or each other. And they and you are not the slightest bit different from the Buddhas. But we're not the same either. We're not the same and we're not different. But that particular statement from the sutra, from the Flower Adornment Sutra, that's emphasizing that we're not the least bit different. Usually the mind makes differences, not the samenesses.
Right. That's a good distinction. Okay, so I'm not the slightest bit different. And when you say that, I trust you and I feel free. Like I feel so full of love for myself and everybody.
Great.
And
that's the idea.
Yes. Okay. But then there's a problem because then I'm not in here with you. And
you're not what?
I'm not in here in the Zendo, or I'm not sitting Zazen. And someone cuts me off in the lane or what. And then I just forget everything you said. And I am now very different than that person. And my question is, can you please offer a tip or a trick to remember in those moments
Oh.
when I'm so different from everyone.
You want a tip for remembering the teaching?
Yes, yes, a tip.
Well, one of the main tip for remembering the teaching is the teaching. Now, I'm not saying you should do this, but you could just start right now and say the mantra. The sutra says, and Reb told me the sutra said, that I'm not the slightest bit different from any living being, from any human, animal, plant. I'm not the slightest different from any being, and I'm not the slightest bit different from Buddha. If you say that enough times, you will have a chance to remember it when you get slapped in the face. When somebody cuts in front of you, you're already, you transform your body into that teaching. And then you can get slapped around and have a much better chance of not forgetting it and not loving and not respecting and not being kind to every living being and to the Buddhas. Some people who think they're separate from Buddha try to exploit Buddha. Not very nice, but because they think they're separate, they try to get Buddha. But that's kind of an insult to Buddha, to try to get it.
Did you say it like a mantra? Was that what
You
just
can
said?
say it like a mantra. Well, like at the end of the Heart Sutra, it says that this is the unsurpassable mantra. Gate, gate, para gate. Gone, gone, gone completely beyond. This is a mantra. And then the last thing it says is Bodhi Swaha. In other words, welcome awakening. Welcome awakening. Welcome awakening. But if I hold to the appearance of difference between myself and you, if I hold that, I don't welcome awakening. When I give up holding the separation between me and you and everybody, when I give that up, I welcome Bodhi. It's a mantra. The Heart Sutra, it can be seen as a mantra. The whole thing, but that last part too. The whole Heart Sutra can be seen as welcome Bodhi, no matter what you're looking at.
Thank you, Reb.
And by the way, the Heart Sutra that we chant is a shorter version of another version, which in that version they point out that the Buddha is in samadhi and Avalokiteshvara is in samadhi. And then Avalokiteshvara arises from samadhi and speaks for the Buddha. And again, the Avatamsaka Sutra has that too. Samantabhadra enters the samadhi, and then Samantabhadra arises from the samadhi, and then Samantabhadra starts teaching.
I have a question from our 177 Zoom participants, or from one of them, from Karen, who asks, if someone is sitting at a distance from others and the others don't know that they are sitting, are they still helping each other? How does that work?
The reality that you who are sitting separate from, for example, me, the reality that we're not the slightest bit different, for you to offer yourself to that reality pervades the entire universe. You're offering yourself and entering that reality pervades and helps all beings enter it. And the sutra says this is very difficult to be confident about. But it does say that. It says, when you enter this samadhi, all beings are there with you, practicing with you. And also Dogen Zenji says in Bendo Wa, in this samadhi, everybody's there practicing with you. But this is hard to be confident about. So we're meditating on that over and over, so we be more and more confident that entering this reality has no limit to the beings it helps. And they also are helping you. But it's hard to be confident about. So confident that when somebody slaps you in the face, you remember it. And part of what attracted me to Zen was people who got slapped in the face and could remember it. I said, I want to learn that. I know how to lash back when I get slapped in the face, but to realize that the person that just slapped me is not the slightest bit different from me. And it's helping me realize the Dharma. I want to learn that.
Hi, Reb. My question is, do you think that Zazen is additive, meaning over the course of human history, meaning do we need to sit to help all of humanity in the future be different?
Did you say, do we need to help all of humanity in the future be different?
I can't hear you. I think what I meant to ask was, do you find sitting additive, meaning the fact that Buddha's initial disciples sat, does that make it different for us? And do we need to do it to make it different for the future of the human race?
I guess what I think we're doing and when we practice Zazen is that we are blessing all life. I think Zazen is a blessing, is an adornment to all suffering beings. It blesses them, it blesses them.
And it's not in the here and now only. I guess that's
It's not in the here and now. We say it's like a hammer striking
right.
emptiness.
Okay.
Its exquisite appeal permeates before and after. So not only do you help when you bless people with Zazen now, not only do you help them now, but you help people in the past and the future. And this again is really something to say. And then after it says that Zazen is like a hammer striking emptiness, its exquisite appeal permeates before and after. Then it says, even of all the Buddhas in 10 directions, with all their Buddha wisdom, try to measure the merit of one person making this offering of Zazen. They would not be able to fully comprehend it. And that's over and over again in the sutra. We cannot comprehend it, but we can offer ourselves to this hammer striking emptiness. And nobody's left out in past, present, and future, or throughout the universe. That's the proposal. Isn't that difficult to understand? Yes.
Thanks.
That's what we mean by Zazen. That's what we mean by just sitting. And it doesn't exactly make a difference. It just makes blessings. It makes things good. It helps people be alive, not so much be different. It helps them realize how beautiful they already are rather than making them better looking.
Thank you.
Recently, I had a chance to do a lot of walking, and during the walking, what kept coming up for me was, I vow with all beings from this life on throughout countless lives to hear the true Dharma, that upon hearing it, no doubt will arise in me, nor will I lack in faith. So when I hear you speaking the true Dharma, I feel like I have to confess and repent that maybe I can't accept it, but I vow to accept it. But there's this play between no doubt will arise in me when I hear it, but doubt does arise in me.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe confusion.
Doubt does arise in me. Well, like Vanessa said too, doubt does arise in her. She doesn't believe the true Dharma, and she doubts that this person is no different from her. So then we have the practice, which is by revealing and disclosing our lack of faith before the Buddhas, in other words, in relationship, we melt away the root of this doubting. And this confessing that I kind of doubt this teaching, I'm having a hard time believing this teaching. To confess that and say, I'm kind of sorry. I wish I could believe it. Because I think that's what I'm being told is the teaching, the true Dharma. I don't believe it. That practice of I don't believe it and I'm sorry is the pure and simple color of true practice. What about when you do believe it? Well, that's the pure and simple color too, of course. But even when you don't believe this teaching, when you notice it and you regret that you don't believe it, and you actually invite the Buddhas to witness your confession, that is a practice which has been done by all Buddhas. And this is the practice which protects all beings. To confess the shortcomings in my faith protects all beings. To ignore my lack of faith is harmful. It's not that you shouldn't be doubting. It's not that you shouldn't be doubting. It's that to confess and repent your doubt protects beings. You can protect beings even when you doubt, if you notice it and confess it. If you resist the practice, if you confess it and apologize, you protect beings. If you're below average practitioner, if you confess it and say you're sorry for being for resisting and being half-hearted, I shouldn't say below average, being half-hearted. If you're half-hearted and you confess and repent it, that protects beings from your half-heartedness. And it melts away the root of your half-heartedness and makes you more and more wholehearted by admitting how half-hearted you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, another.
Thank you. Is this okay speaking in like that? I just wanted to say I've been reading this book. It's Koan Practice for Daily Life, and the commentary is by Guo Gu. It's the Gateless Barrier. And in the commentary on these koans, he talks a lot about vexations. When we have vexations, that's an opportunity to notice that that's our sense of a separate self that is arising. And it gives us the chance to practice and to notice that that's happening. And one thing that my teacher, Neti Mushin Parek, has helped me to see is, say someone does cut me off and I start to feel vexations, that instead of getting angry, I can just say, oh, that person must be in a hurry, or they must be having a bad day, and just continue to just try to give love and put love out into the universe, and just try to see the best in all beings. And that's what helps me to notice that sense of a separate self and to let go of it, and to try to keep practicing. Thank you.
Sounds good. If you see a sense of separate self, that's an opportunity for kindness towards that sense. And then we can let go of it. It's hard to let go of things if we're not kind to them. Yes.
Hi. I'm finding myself wanting to feel a lot during my zazen. I want to cry deeply, or I want to laugh hysterically, just noticing that there's what feels like a well of expression that I'd like to experience. And I'm curious about what you would say around the matters of the heart and I guess healing or feeling.
What I heard first was you want certain feelings. Okay, so if you are kind, if you're really generous and gentle and careful and respectful and patient with your wanting those feelings, you will become free of wanting them. And they all may come or not, but you'll be free. But instead of just being kind to the wanting, you try to get those things, you'll get in big trouble.
Well, I'm not necessarily like
Pardon?
I'm not necessarily doing anything to make it happen.
That's good, thank you.
I noticed that in Zazen,
Yeah.
it all feels like a blur.
The main thing is, the Zazen is to be kind to your desires for something so you can be free of your desires. But not by pushing them away, but by being their good friend. Hi, desire, come on over here.
Okay. And would you say just a little bit more about compassion and how to practice that?
A little bit more?
A little
How
bit more.
about welcome everything that happens? That's a little bit more.
Thanks.
I think maybe Beth was next. And if the next person came closer, it would help me hear you. Yes, Beth?
Tenshin Roshi, I'm very curious about the photograph that you shared with us
Yes?
and the story that you told. It sounded like maybe this person in the photograph was the person that inspired your practice.
Yes?
Would you say more about that and who that person is?
That person, his name is Hisamatsu Shinichi. He's Japanese. I think the picture was taken in Japan. He's sitting on a tatami mat looking out in a garden. And he was a leading lay Buddhist scholar who lived sort of contemporary with D.T. Suzuki. And also, another thing about that sort of an inscription of that photograph was in deepest thought. And I thought, oh yeah, if you're in deepest thought, your body is beautiful. If you're, your posture is beautiful when you're in deepest thought. And of course, it can be any posture. But the beauty of your posture is the depth of your thought. And so that inspired me to do this beautiful physical practice to express the deepest thought.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Come closer, did you say?
Would you be willing to come close? I have trouble hearing people at a distance.
Even with the microphone?
Touche. Let me try it. Shall I still come closer, Rib?
You can try. I'm having trouble hearing you, but go ahead.
I'll come closer. Forgive the question.
Did you say forgive it?
Yeah,
You're ordering me to forgive it?
I'm requesting.
Pardon?
Would you please forgive this question?
I'll do my best.
Thank you. What is the difference between me and the Buddha?
What is the difference? There is no difference. And if you think there is, that's your thought. That's not the difference. That's just what you think. There's no difference except mental construction.
Really?
Oh, really?
No, I mean. Okay,
Also, there's no difference between you and me either. Not the slightest. That's the teaching. But it's not easy to understand that teaching.
right. Yeah, I'm working on that. And I guess my question has
You're
to,
working on that. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah. But I think my question has to do with, is the Buddha anything different?
Is the what?
Is the Buddha anything different than a bodhisattva, than me, than
Is the
the
Buddha
locusts?
anything different?
Yeah, I mean, is there any distinction about Buddha?
Any distinction? You can make distinctions about the Buddha. Like you can say the Buddha is enlightened and sentient beings aren't. Okay?
Right.
But the teaching is, although you make that distinction, these are the enlightened ones and these are the not enlightened ones, there's no difference between those two things that you just talked about. The enlightened and the not enlightened. Just like there's no difference between form and emptiness. There's not the slightest bit different. But they do mention that. They do mention that because people do think that there's a difference between form and emptiness. But the fact that you can make a difference between yourself and somebody else doesn't mean that that's reality. That just means you got a creative mind.
Okay.
Mhm.
A number of years ago at an intensive,
Oh, just one more thing I'd
Yeah.
say. And one can aspire to be someone without thinking or believing that they're different from you.
Okay.
Like you could aspire to be a Buddha without thinking that Buddha is different from you.
right,
That you could aspire to be Buddha, understanding that you're Buddha in this form. You're a Buddha as a sentient being.
a number of years ago at an intensive, we were talking about being a Buddha. And you said either to me or somebody, can you consider that you are a Buddha or will be a Buddha? And I was adamant, no. In all honesty, absolutely, that's not in the realm of possibility
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what you think. That's what you thought.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And it isn't that I don't think that now, but at this point, I notice there's a tiny bit of willingness to consider the possibility of what you're saying. So that's X years later, there's now a tiny hair's breadth of, okay, I'll considering that. And that's the fruit of my labor for all these years. There's now a tiny bit.
Well, tiny bit's enough. And there's not the slightest bit difference between your tiny bit and somebody else's big bit. So, what did I say? The point is not so much that you have this view. The point is not to fall into it, not to hold on to the distinction. It isn't that you get rid of the distinction. It's that you don't hold on to it. And this teaching is saying, do not hold on to the distinction between yourself and those people, or yourself and those Buddhas. Don't fall into grasping the distinction between what you could be, what you want to be, and what you are. They're not really different, but to realize that, we have to give up grasping the sense that they are, but not eliminating the sense that they are. But bringing that the sense that they're not separate together with the sense that they are.
Thank you.
I don't know. Have you keeping track of when people asked? Okay.
Is this close enough or closer? Closer? How's this?
And now that you're into the, yeah, it's kind of nice.
Okay. You let me know. So I'm wondering if you could say something about when totally including our experience and saying yes to our experience means saying no in some way. So I don't understand. Or it's,
I'm not so much saying yes to your experience. I'm just saying, welcome it. You don't have to say yes to evil. You don't have to say no to evil, but you can. But if you say no, welcome the no. Be respectful of yes and no. Be respectful of everything. And for the sake of helping people who don't know how to do that yet. Teach respect. But you don't have to say yes or no. But you can.
I guess I'm asking about how to, sometimes it seems like it can be difficult to tell the difference between rejecting my experience and having boundaries.
It's hard to tell the difference between respecting your experience.
I'm sorry, the difference between rejecting my experience,
rejecting
which
it.
I strive not to do on the one hand, versus not having boundaries, which
I'm having trouble hearing.
not having
You got
boundaries.
that rejecting.
Mhm.
You're having trouble telling the difference between rejecting and what?
And including, but having boundaries.
Having boundary. Yeah, that could be difficult to tell. So like, here's this thing, here it is, and I feel the boundary. Those are two different things. Some things, the thing is one thing, and my sense of a boundary is another. Like, here's the thing, and I feel like it's getting too close. Those are two things to be respectful of.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so when something gets close and I feel a boundary arise, that's not rejecting the thing. That's just two things. It's one, this is this, and I feel too close. I respect both.
Hmm.
I'm not rejecting people when they get really close and I feel a boundary come up. I'm actually, that boundary is a way that we can realize how intimate we are. Hey, guess what? I just felt a boundary between us. I had a boundary for how close I wanted to be with you. This is how we can be intimate. I'm not rejecting you. Yeah.
It feels related, so I'll tack this on. But you mentioned noticing one's lack of faith and repenting.
Noticing lack of faith and
then repenting, or confessing and repenting.
yeah, I think there's a lack of faith there, and that's a confession.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry that there's a lack of faith.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by sorry? Because it's easy. I don't think you mean something like
Yeah,
self-flagellation.
kind of like, I'm sorry. I wasn't kind to you. I'm sorry. Or I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed that I wasn't kind to you. I regret that I wasn't kind to you. I feel, and there's the word, I feel sorrow that I wasn't kind to you. I confess that I wasn't so kind to you, and I feel sorry. I feel sorrow. I feel not good about not being kind to you. Those are the two parts.
Specifically with lack of faith, noticing that we lack faith. What does the sorry look like in that case? Because it's maybe easy to mishear that as sort of self-flagellation, and I don't think you mean that.
Well, a lack of faith might be, I believe, I really feel confident that I want to be kind to you. I do. And then I'm not. That's a lack of faith. Not to follow through on what I believe is kind of like a lack of my faith.
Mhm.
Not to be confident enough that I want to be kind to you, that I really do it, even when you're difficult. That's a lack of faith. So lack of faith relates to what I do trust or what I do really think is most important in life. So this is most important, to be compassionate and to work for the freedom of all beings. And I was just half-hearted there. I'm sorry. It hurts me. I feel pain that I wasn't wholehearted about what I think is most important.
So with Zazen practice, let's say I notice myself feeling a lack of confidence or a lack of faith. It sounds like there has to be this kind of conversation, I guess, between the thing that got me there in the first place, the intention, which I trust, and then that has to be that's there, and then straying from that intention is the thing to repent, because I have this
Yeah,
confidence
you
already.
confess that you strayed from the intention, and then you check to see how you feel about it. It's possible to stray from your intention to practice and not feel sorry yet. So you could say, I got the first part. I noticed that I was not practicing the way I really thought I wanted to, but I don't yet feel the regret or the sorrow. Oh, here it is, there it is. And sometimes it helps if you don't have both parts. Actually, when we do our formal repentance in the morning, we don't say, I'm sorry. We just say, I fully confess. I fully confess all my ancient twisted karma. We don't then say, and I'm sorry. That's something that maybe there's a variety there, you know. The sorrow may not come right away, it may come later. Sometimes when you tell someone else, also, it comes later. There's two different parts. In a sense, one's about the past and one's about the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We are a little over time, 20.
We're a little over time. So fortunately, even though we're a little over time, we might have a little more time together, hopefully. So if you have any questions, I used to write down my questions for Suzuki Roshi in a little book. So you might want to write your questions down and then you can bring them up later. May we stop now?